ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that the road that stretches just beyond the edge of Port Charles has always carried a quiet, deceptive stillness, the kind that hides danger in plain sight, and on this night it becomes a stage for a turning point. None of them can walk away from unchanged. Jordan and Curtis do not see the moment coming, not in the way it arrives, sharp, violent, and absolute. 1 second they are moving forward, still carrying the weight of unspoken suspicions and half-formed conclusions about Cullum, and the next, everything fractures. Metal twists, glass shatters, and the world collapses into fire and smoke. It is not simply an accident. It feels too precise, too timed, too aligned with the dangerous knowledge Jordan has begun to piece together. Somewhere beneath the chaos there is intention, and that realization lingers even as consciousness slips away. Cullum has always operated in the shadows, but what makes him truly dangerous is not just his reach, but his patience. He does not act until he is certain that the people he targets have crossed a line that cannot be undone. Jordan, with her relentless pursuit of truth, has done exactly that. She has seen too much, connected too many threads, and begun to understand that what Cullum is building is not just a network, but a system of control that extends far beyond anything Port Charles has faced before. To him, this accident is not merely a warning, it is a necessary correction. If Jordan cannot be silenced through fear, then she must be removed from the board entirely. Curtis, caught beside her, becomes collateral in a move that is both calculated and cold. Yet fate, or something far more complicated, intervenes in the form of two people who were never meant to be there. Carly and Valentin arrive not as heroes, but as fugitives from their own unraveling circumstances. Their presence on that road is driven by urgency, by the constant need to stay one step ahead of the forces closing in around them. Valentin especially knows what it means to live under pursuit, to feel every second measured against the risk of exposure. Stopping is not part of the plan. Stopping is the one thing he cannot afford to do. And yet, when the burning wreck comes into view, when the reality of lives hanging by a thread becomes undeniable, something shifts. It is not hesitation that defines the moment, but recognition, the understanding that walking away would not just be survival, it would be surrender to the very darkness they have both been trying to outrun. Carly does not need to say it out loud. The decision is made in the space between them, in the silence that carries more weight than any argument. They stop, they step into the fire. And in doing so, they cross a line that will bind their fates to Jordan and Curtis in ways none of them can yet fully comprehend. The rescue is frantic, imperfect, driven by instinct rather than certainty. Time becomes fragmented, reduced to urgent movements and desperate choices, pulling bodies from twisted metal, fighting against heat and smoke, refusing to let go even when the outcome is unclear. In those moments, there are no alliances, no enemies, only the raw, undeniable urgency of survival. But survival in Port Charles is never simple. It comes with consequences, with memories that refuse to stay buried. Whether Jordan or Curtis fully regain consciousness in those critical moments becomes less important than the possibility that one of them sees something, a face, a voice, a presence that does not belong. Valentin's greatest fear is not just being recognized, but being remembered, because memory, once formed, cannot be controlled. It lingers, it resurfaces, and it turns into leverage in the hands of the wrong person. When the immediate danger passes, what remains is not relief, but tension thick, unspoken, and growing with every passing second. Carly and Valentin know they cannot stay. Every instinct tells them to disappear before questions begin, before sirens cut through the night and turn an act of compassion into a liability. But leaving does not erase what happened. It only delays the moment when it all comes crashing back. Jordan and Curtis awaken into a reality that feels fractured, incomplete, yet deeply wrong. The accident itself is terrifying, but it is the sense that it was not random that begins to take hold. Jordan, in particular, cannot shake the feeling that this was connected to everything she has uncovered about Cullum. The pieces do not just fit, they align too perfectly to ignore. And beneath that realization is something else, something more unsettling, the faint memory of being pulled from the wreck, of voices that should not have been there, of a presence that carries its own kind of danger. As the truth begins to surface, the lines between victim and witness blur. Jordan and Curtis are not just survivors. They are now part of a much larger equation, one that includes Carly and Valentin whether they want it or not. And when the realization finally settles that the people who saved them may also be hiding something just as dangerous as the man who tried to eliminate them, it changes everything. Gratitude becomes complicated. Trust becomes fragile. Every decision moving forward carries weight. For Carly and Valentin, the aftermath is even more precarious. What they did cannot be undone, and neither can the risk it created. Valentin understands better than anyone that exposure does not happen all at once. It builds, piece by piece, until there is nowhere left to hide. If Jordan or Curtis speak, if they remember too much or connect the wrong details, everything collapses. The alliances they have formed, the plans they have set in motion, even the fragile bond between them, all of it stands on the edge of being destroyed. And yet, within that danger lies something unexpected, an opportunity. Because the same event that threatens to expose them also creates a shared enemy, Cullum's actions have crossed a line that none of them can ignore. He has made it personal, turning suspicion into certainty, fear into resolve. What begins as survival begins to evolve into something far more dangerous, a convergence of motives that could reshape the balance of power in Port Charles. The idea of retaliation does not emerge all at once. It builds slowly, almost imperceptibly, in the spaces between conversations, in the silences where unspoken truths begin to take form. Jordan's need for justice, Curtis's determination to protect what remains of their world, Carly's refusal to be cornered, and Valentin's understanding of how to dismantle an enemy from the inside, all of it begins to align. Not as a unified front, not yet, but as parallel paths moving toward the same inevitable conclusion. Cullum believes he is still in control. He believes the accident achieved its purpose, that the threat has been neutralized, or at least weakened. What he does not see, what he cannot anticipate, is that his actions have done the opposite. He has forced 4 people, each dangerous in their own way, into a position where they have nothing left to lose and everything to prove. And in Port Charles, that is the most volatile combination of all. What rises from the ashes of that burning wreck is not just survival, but a shift in power. A new force begins to take shape, not defined by loyalty or trust, but by necessity. It is fragile, unpredictable, and built on secrets that could destroy it at any moment. But it is also driven by something stronger than fear, a shared understanding that the only way forward is through confrontation. And, as the city continues to move, unaware of the storm gathering beneath its surface, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This was never just an accident. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous, a chain reaction that will pull every hidden secret into the light and force every player to choose a side. In the end, it will not be about who survived the crash, but about who is willing to burn everything down to ensure that Cullum is the one who falls. Valentin does not stay long enough to be thanked, nor long enough to be questioned. Disappearance has always been his instinct, his only reliable form of survival, and this time is no different. The moment the immediate danger passes, the moment Jordan and Curtis are no longer suspended between life and death, he begins to withdraw from the scene like a shadow retreating before dawn. Yet Valentin is not reckless, and more importantly, he is not careless. He understands that leaving without a trace is not the same as leaving without impact. What he chooses to leave behind is not evidence of his presence, but fragments of truth calculated, incomplete, and just precise enough to guide Jordan and Curtis toward a realization they were already dangerously close to reaching. The information is subtle, almost easy to miss if one does not know how to look. A detail about timing that does not align with a random accident. A hint about mechanical interference that suggests intent rather than coincidence. A name that is never spoken directly but implied through context that only someone familiar with Cullum's operations could fully understand. Valentin does not hand them answers. He gives them direction. And in doing so, he sets something into motion that he himself will not be present to control. For Jordan, the pieces fall into place with unsettling clarity. The accident was not an isolated event, not a cruel twist of fate, but a deliberate act designed to silence her before she could expose something far more dangerous. The realization does not bring fear so much as it brings focus. Every doubt she had, every hesitation about how deep the situation truly goes, begins to dissolve. What replaces it is a sharpened sense of purpose, one that is no longer driven by curiosity but by necessity. She understands now that stepping back is no longer an option. Cullum has already made his move. The only question left is how she will respond. Curtis, on the other hand, experiences the aftermath differently, but no less intensely. For him, the shift is not only about uncovering the truth behind the attack, but about what it reveals regarding the people around him. He cannot ignore the fact that someone risked everything to pull them out of that wreck, nor can he dismiss the weight of what Valentin chose to leave behind. There is a conflict within him between suspicion and reluctant respect, between the instinct to question and the undeniable reality that they owe their lives to a man they cannot fully trust. That tension becomes something he carries quietly, something he does not yet fully articulate, even to Jordan, and yet it is precisely this shared experience that begins to change the dynamic between them. Danger has a way of stripping away illusion, of forcing people to confront what truly matters when everything else is reduced to survival. Jordan and Curtis have faced threats before, but this is different. This is personal, targeted, and deeply connected to the choices they have both made. In the aftermath of the crash, there is no room left for distance or hesitation. What emerges instead is a renewed sense of partnership, one that is no longer defined by past misunderstandings or unresolved tensions, but by a mutual understanding that they are now standing on the same side of a much larger fight. Their conversations become sharper, more focused, yet also more honest in a way they have not been for a long time. There is an unspoken acknowledgement between them that they cannot afford to hold back, not with each other, and certainly not with the truth. Trust, which once felt fragile, begins to rebuild itself through action rather than words. Every decision they make moving forward is shaped by the knowledge that they survived something that was meant to end them, and that survival demands more than just caution, it demands commitment. At the center of it all is Cullum, still operating from the shadows, still unaware of how much his actions have accelerated the very outcome he sought to prevent. By targeting Jordan, he intended to eliminate a threat. Instead, he has created a catalyst. The information Valentin left behind, combined with Jordan's growing certainty and Curtis's resolve, begins to form the foundation of something far more dangerous than either of them alone. It is no longer just about exposing Cullum. It is about dismantling the system he has built, piece by piece, until there is nothing left for him to hide behind. And as that mission begins to take shape, so too does the emotional shift between Jordan and Curtis. It is not sudden, nor is it dramatic in the way one might expect. It grows quietly, in the spaces between strategy and silence, in the moments where one glance carries more meaning than any declaration. They begin to understand each other not just as partners in a fight, but as two people who have been pulled back together by something stronger than circumstance. The danger they face does not push them apart, it draws them closer, reinforcing a connection that had once been strained, but never truly broken. Valentin, somewhere far from Port Charles, likely anticipates this outcome. He understands how pressure shapes people, how crisis reveals what lies beneath the surface. By stepping away, he has removed himself from the immediate equation, but his influence remains embedded in the path Jordan and Curtis are now walking. The information he left behind continues to echo, guiding them even in his absence, ensuring that the fight against Cullum does not fade with the flames of that wreck. What began as an attempt to silence now becomes the beginning of something far more dangerous. The stakes are higher, the alliance is more complex, and the emotional undercurrents stronger than ever before. Jordan and Curtis are no longer reacting, they are preparing. And in that preparation, in that shared determination to face what comes next together, there is a shift that cannot be undone. Because in Port Charles, survival is only the beginning. What truly matters is what you choose to do after you've been given a second chance.